live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com. This is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
Thank you, John. 2 questions today. Question number 1. What do you think of Mark Sutcliffe running for mayor? Question number 2. Is this latest revelation enough to force the resignation of Bill Blair? First, the Mark Sutcliffe question. What do you think? I say, thank heavens, at last. At last, we've got someone running for mayor who's not a career politician. Hallelujah. I know Mark very well. Worked with him for many, many years. He's a very successful entrepreneur. He's a very experienced businessman. He knows the city very well. He's an excellent communicator. And I can tell you from many years of knowing and working with Mark, he's bright, hardworking, very diplomatic. And if anybody is able, I believe, to bring some unity to a very divided city council, I think it might be Mark Sutcliffe. He's very diplomatic. In addition, as I say, to working with Mark for many years at CFRA, I've had business dealings with him through my publishing company, and I can tell you that Mark Sutcliffe is quite capable of driving a very hard bargain and following details very closely. A couple of things I think we really need at City Hall. In other words, folks, I'm thrilled. Thrilled that he's running. I hope he wins. I believe that I am the first person who publicly urged him to run. A lot of people laughed at me. Lo and behold, he made the announcement today. He's running. Good for you, Mark. Good luck. Anything I can do to help, please let me know. And by the way, if anybody out there is interested in helping or would like information, more information, don't be afraid to get in touch with me, okay? I'll be very open with you. On the second question concerning Bill Blair, new evidence has come forward, which is scathing towards Blair and, to a degree, Justin Trudeau. Lisa Scanlon, at the time communications manager for the Nova Scotia RCMP, wrote a letter shortly after the terrible mass murders. She's just scathing. A letter which reveals what she says was direct pressure from the then Public Affairs Minister Bill Blair to release information concerning the guns used in the murders. Both Bill Blair and Trudeau wanted the public to know what guns were used in those murders because they believed it would help them pass legislation in the House. Let me read you a bit of a story, Canadian press story that appears today in the Halifax Chronicle. I'll read it word for word, parts of it. A scathing letter from an RCMP commissioner's manager released Tuesday says RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucki referred to direct pressure from the federal public safety minister to release firearm details in the days after the Nova Scotia mass shooting. It is the second such claim by an RCMP official who was on April 28, 2020 conference call in which Lucki criticized Halifax staff 9 days after the rampage that resulted in 22 deaths. The letter from Leah Scanlon, dated April 14, 2001, claims the RCMP's leader focused on the Liberal government's agenda of passing firearms legislation during the hastily arranged meeting. Hours earlier, during a news conference, Superintendent Darren Campbell hadn't provided full details about the 2 rifles and 2 pistols used by the killer. According to his handwritten notes released to the public inquiry, the RCMP was concerned providing this information might jeopardize their investigation. Listen to this. I'm reading directly once again. As the dressing down unfolded, Scanlon said Lucki informed us of the pressures and conversation with Public Safety Minister Bill Blair, which we clearly understood was related to the upcoming passing of the gun legislation. I remember a feeling of disgust as I realized this was the catalyst for the conversation and perhaps a justification for what you are saying about us. Scanlon's letter is part of the evidence provided to a public inquiry into the mass shooting. According to Scanlon, who was the strategic communications director at the time of the shootings, Lucky had come on the line incensed that the Halifax staff had not released the gun details, suggesting they had let down surviving children, etc., etc. It was appalling, inappropriate, unprofessional, and extremely belittling, Scanlon wrote. And then the story goes on to say, and this is the last paragraph, handwritten notes from Darren Campbell, he's in charge of the investigation, released last Monday, also say Lucky told those present she had promised the Federal Public Safety Department and the Prime Minister's office that information on the guns used by the shooter would be released because it was tied to pending gun control legislation. Of course, both Blair and Trudeau have denied it. Just listen to this, though. Scanlon says it was appalling, inappropriate, unprofessional, and extremely belittling. Doesn't seem to be any question that Bill Blair must resign. I mean, he's been caught with his pants down here, folks, in my view. Handwritten notes by Darren Campbell, in charge of the investigation, backed up by a letter by Leah Scanlon, saying exactly the same thing. That Lucky came on the phone conference call, was very mad, gave them hell for not releasing the information, said she had promised that the information would be released, promised Bill Blair, promised the Prime Minister's office the information would be released because they needed it to help them pass gun legislation. I mean, this very clearly, Bill Blair, at the very least, has been caught trying to influence an active police investigation. Highly illegal, immoral, and all sorts of other things. In your opinion, can Bill Blair survive this? And I must tell you that this man is a lying weasel. I caught Bill Blair in a lie at the start of the pandemic. There was a lot of criticism that there were no security measures underway at Canadian airports, that people were coming in from all around the world, no testing of COVID, not even a question being asked. Bill Blair got up in the House and lied through his teeth, claiming that he had looked after it. There was all sorts of security. There were all sorts of precautions being taken at our airports. Debbie and I arrived 2 or 3 days later at Pearson International Airport. There were absolutely no questions being asked, no security measures concerning COVID whatsoever. People were arriving from all around the world. When we arrived, an Air Canada had just come in from India. They had come in from China. Just passed through. No question, not even a question about COVID. So I caught Bill Blair in a damn lie. So the fact that he's now, as far as I'm concerned, lying again. I mean, Darren Campbell, in charge of the investigation. Why would these are handwritten notes? Any good police officer in an investigation makes handwritten notes. He can refer to them, and they will hold up much better in a court of law than strictly memory. Why would he write things like that if they hadn't happened? He had no bone to pick with the government. He had no bone to pick with the RCMP commissioner. He wrote down what happened during that meeting, and he's backed up by Leah Scanlon, who also took part. How can Bill Blair and the Prime Minister, for that matter, deny that this happened? They're both lying weasels, as far as I'm concerned. Lying freaking weasels. These are the people, governing this country, such as the governing is. John, what reaction are we getting here?
All right, we got 2 questions on the board right now. Your thoughts on Mark Sutcliffe announcing that he's running for mayor, and of course, is this the end of Bill Blair? So here we go. Mahadi says he loves Mark Sutcliffe. Will vote for him. He loves that man a lot. David says someone we can vote for. Barbara on Facebook. Happy to see Mark Sutcliffe running. I thought we were doomed with the other candidates who are all scary, actually. Paul is looking forward to reading Mark's platform. An email in from Lisa. The address here is lowell@blasttheradio.com. Mark for mayor? Maybe. I'm just glad Diane Deans and Lisa McLeod are gone. Those two women are about as useful as tits on a boar hog. Good riddance to bad rubbish. Lisa McLeod's MPP, though, isn't she? She's not city council.
That's right, yeah.
For the record, there you go. Paul says Blair should resign, but of course he won't. Shirley's on Facebook. By the way, facebook.com/The Lowell Green or Milkman Show or Blast the Radio. You can post your comments there. Shirley says, well said, Lowell, regarding Blair and COVID and the airport situation, the story you just told. Richard is on Facebook. In a true democracy, he says, this should bring both Blair and Trudeau down. But because of the deal signed with Singh, if anything goes to a vote, it will never happen. The whole lot.
I understand that, and you're right. But I just don't see how Bill Blair, I mean, Trudeau is not going to resign. I mean, he's been caught in far worse scandals than this, and he escapes, and people still adore the son of a biscuit box. But Bill Blair, I just don't see how he can survive this. I mean, this was Bill Blair, and as far as the commissioner, I don't see how she can survive either. I mean, the two of them have been caught in political interference of a police investigation. You cannot have this in a democracy. You cannot have politics determining guilt, innocence, taking part in a police investigation. You just can't. That's not the justice system. Go ahead, John.
Our number here is 613-413-2217. Over to YouTube, and Boo Boo says, how many scandals will the Trudeau Liberals continue to survive? Something is amiss here. Boot Bill Blair. He was always wishy-washy, but this takes the cake. Take Trudeau with him, as he knew. Laurentian View Terry on Twitch. Blair must resign. If Singh has any brains at all, he'll pull the plug on this government now.
Yeah, I ask all you NDP supporters out there, how can your leader, Jagmeet Singh, continue to support this? Because if he supports this, he is supporting, in my view, corruption. It is corrupt. A government that tries to influence a police investigation is a corrupt government. And Bill Blair, as far as I'm concerned, took part in corruption. How can Jagmeet Singh support that? It beats the bejabbers out of me. But you NDPs, you know better. Go ahead.
All right, again, the number here, 613-413-2217. Bill just posted on Facebook moments ago saying, I am not a fan of Mark's, but he is smart and fresh blood, just what Ottawa needs, and he's got my vote. Coraline says, Blair, Lucky, and Medencino all need to resign. Criminally charge Blair and the RCMP commissioner with interference to get rid of them, says Richard. Barbara, is anyone really surprised with this news regarding Blair? The general public, except delusioned Liberals, is completely exhausted listening to this crap, and we feel we are hogtied until 2025, when it very well may be too late. Darlene, more should happen other than resigning. That is her opinion. Let me see. Let's go to David. Yes, exactly. Thanks heavens. I don't know what we're referring to there. David, sorry, that's out of context at this point. Peter says, we heard it here first yesterday, then saw it on Twitter. Can't vote for him, but hopefully he wins. Wish we only had some decent people running in the city of Pembroke. Nick is in to say, if this won't bring down our government, nothing will. Singh will not help here. He never should have entered into any agreement in the first place, so to expect him to do so now is a pipe dream.
Should Bill Blair resign, though? Should he do the honorable thing? If there is any honor in those Liberal benches, surely to God, Bill Blair should resign. You know, if he won't resign on his own volition, it seems to me that there are some good Liberals there, good, honest Liberals members. It seems to me they should come to Bill and say, listen, Bill, you can't survive that. We can't have you. We can't sit with you in caucus anymore. Will any of the Liberal members do that? I don't know. None of the Liberal members came to the defense of what was it, Jody Wilson-Raybould. So I don't know. They didn't come to her rescue. They all ran for cover. Are they going to have the guts to come to Bill Blair? I mean, this is corruption in their midst. They're going to sit down with a guy who obviously tried to influence a police investigation. Go ahead, please. For political reasons. Go ahead, please, John.
To Facebook and Elias. Yes, Blair and Trudeau should resign. Unfortunately, they will not. Yes, exactly. Thank heavens. New blood at City Council, says David. Ryan, I believe this is the first time we've heard from you. If not, I apologize. If so, welcome to the show. These corrupt politicians are going to just keep doing these types of things if there is no jail time. By the way, thanks for sharing the show to your social media. It's as simple as hitting the share button. Blair needs to go for this latest mess. He won't get removed by Trudeau, but the commissioner will get thrown under the bus by Trudeau. Blair won't resign. He had that mess in Toronto for G7 and didn't get removed then either. Liberals are all weasels looking after each other. Peter
You know, that I'm glad you raised that. It has always surprised the hell out of me that Bill Blair was once the police chief of the city of Toronto. How this guy could be the chief of anything beats me. I mean, if you watch him in the House, I mean, it seems to me that he's got the ability of a toad. I hate to be insulting, but I mean, the guy's lied. He's tried to interfere in police investigation. This is a former police chief. He knows damn well he shouldn't be doing that. But obviously, there's just no sense of morality there whatsoever. How can you be a police chief and not have any sense of morality? Jeez, drives me nuts. Go ahead, please, John.
Kirk has a few comments on the AR-15, but we'll go to his comments on your question. He says, Blair, Freeland, Medicino should all resign. Wish we could impeach Trudeau. Bill says, no honor amongst Liberals. Trudeau will throw him under the bus. Over to Kellyanne on Facebook. Really good, honest Liberals. I disagree. Think they're all complacent with all the scandalous issues coming. Do you mean complicit? With all the scandalous issues coming from you, Liberals. They all just keep their mouths shut to keep their big, fat paying jobs. Here we go. That was a tough one to get through. Richard, the current Liberals are all come, go, go, all led with Trudeau fingers in their noses, pulling them along.
Well, actually, there's some truth to that. One of the reasons, of course, is that the Liberals continue to back this guy Trudeau, is they realize without him, they really have nothing. I mean, if you examine history just a few years back, you realize that until Trudeau showed up, the Liberals were nowhere in this country. And he led them to victory, not once, but twice, 3 times. So that's why. But I mean, you really have to be desperate to keep your job to support this kind of corruption and incompetence. Go ahead, please.
We got a few texts that are standing by, but let's get a word in for Shields while we can.
Yeah, let's talk about some people where there is plenty of competence. I'm talking about Shields of Pakenham, huge warehouse, all the appliances you could possibly want, and they're all listed in their website. No matter what appliance that you have, 99% sure they will have it, and thus they will be able to deliver to your home within 2 or 3 days at the most. And yes, in response to a couple of queries, they do deliver now all through Ottawa. No problem whatsoever, even right down into the Seaway Valley. With now I have customers in Brockville, Prescott, etc., etc. So no matter if I don't think they're delivering out to the West Coast, but essentially in this area, as far as the St. Lawrence Seaway, yes, they'll be glad to deliver. Shields, good prices, good people, great selection. Thank you, Don. What else do we have here?
I'm laughing because if they deliver to the East Coast, boy, if I got a customer for them, my mother-in-law would love to be doing business with a place like Shields right now. She is so frustrated at the lack of options for appliance shopping in the East Coast. All right, let's go to Twitch. Laurentian View Terry. Blair must resign. If Singh has any brains at all, he'll pull the plug on this government now. Deborah's on Facebook. Bill Blair will not resign. He'll just keep repeating the lies. Thank you, Mark, for running for mayor. You have my vote. Our first text of the day in at 613-413-2217. Well said, Lowell. I agree with you. Yes, Blair needs to leave. I hope the Canadian would see all the lying going on with the Liberals and hypocrisy. Never seen anything like this before.
I go back. Let me just read you once again. I'm just rereading this story that's in the Halifax Herald. This is Leah Scanlon writing. She was director of communications for the Mounties at the time. Quote, I remember a feeling of disgust as I realized this was the catalyst for the conversation and perhaps a justification for what you are saying about us. This is the commissioner, RCMP Commissioner Lucky, raising hell, giving them hell down there in Halifax because they haven't released the gun information. So she says, I had a feeling of disgust. She says, quote, "It was appalling, inappropriate, unprofessional, and extremely belittling." So what Lucky said was more than just a few words of criticism. Very clearly, she raked them over the coals and said, among other things, "I promised Bill Blair promised the Prime Minister's office that this information would be revealed." And very clearly, she's given him all sorts of hell, and she's the commissioner. So appalling, inappropriate, unprofessional, extremely belittling. This is, folks, this is the head of the RCMP, the Federal Police Force. So we've got Bill Blair, former chief of police for Toronto, involved in a scandal. And we've got the head of the Federal Police Department. Don't forget, the RCMP are responsible for investigating, among other things, the federal government. And this is the commissioner. Appalling, inappropriate, unprofessional, extremely belittling. Sounds like some leader, doesn't it? Go ahead, please, John.
Again, the number here, 613-413-2217. Here's a text from Donna. Wasn't sure who to vote for, but with Mark Sutcliffe, he's got my vote. There you go. Let's go back to email, Lowell@blasttheradio.com. This is from Paul. The RCMP Director of Communications also stated, according to the Globe and Mail report today, that there was not one RCMP press conference that was not first checked by the PMO and Public Safety Minister. That's the level of control they had. I think this government knows no bounds and is out of control in terms of political influence. That being said, I think we need to remove the PM appointment of the commissioner and not have the commissioner report to the safety minister. The temptation to influence is too tempting, and until that's changed, other governments will have the same temptation.
It's kind of scary. We had a police chief here in Ottawa who couldn't handle, he couldn't even call tow trucks to come and tow trucks away from Wellington. We've got the former police chief of Toronto involved in this scandal. We've got the RCMP commissioner, appalling, inappropriate, et cetera, et cetera. Boy, this doesn't give you a hell of a lot of confidence about our police departments, does it? I'm not talking about the man and woman on the street. They're doing their best. But the leadership, I mean, holy suffering doodle cats. What a disgrace. I mean, go ahead, John.
Your thoughts on Mark Sutcliffe putting his name in the hat to become mayor, and is this the end of Bill Blair? Your comments on Facebook, on Twitch, on YouTube, on Twitter, and again, 613-413-2217. Let's
John,
go to...
just before you go further.
Okay.
One of the interesting things concerning Mark Sutcliffe's, his chances, I just wonder how the unions are going to react. You recall, I am sure, that the unions in the past, when an independent, particularly a businessman, tried to run, they pretty well destroyed him. Excuse me. I'm just wondering if the unions will, at the very least, just stay silent this time. Who will they? Well, I suppose they will back McKinney, who is a very far left wing. I don't know. This is going to be very interesting to see who the unions back in this mayoralty race. Go ahead, please.
Have candidates for mayor typically declared their political allegiances in the past? I mean, we know Jim Watson obviously has run for the Liberals, so we know he's a Liberal. We know where his loyalties are. But in the past, so we don't necessarily know what somebody's politics are, do we, when they're running for mayor?
No, but in almost every case, we know very well. And many of them have run. I mean, Diane Deans was a cabinet minister in the NDP government, et cetera, et cetera. Jim Watson was a cabinet minister in the Liberals.
Right.
So we know. As far as Mark Sutcliffe, Mark certainly is not on the right wing. I will say that. But I think I think he's more central. I think he's a very balanced guy here. I think my experience is he's able to see all sides. And as I say, he's a very, very keen negotiator. And I'll tell you something else. He's very level-headed. And any dealings I had with him, he was always, seems to me, able to. He didn't always agree with everything I was saying at the time, and wasn't afraid to get into a debate with me. But he would listen. He would listen to my point of view, and sometimes agreed, sometimes didn't. That's my knowledge of Mark Sutcliffe. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I don't know him as well as you do, but I certainly have listened to him for years on radio, and he's been doing amazing work on a podcast for the last little while, and I have gone out of my way to offer him all kinds of technical support on that to
Yeah,
help
you
get him going.
handle him as far as podcast. He does a
Um,
podcast.
he does a podcast. I don't have much to do with his podcast other than supplying him with gear and helping him with some technology. But my
Okay.
dealings with him at his house and on the phone, etc., he is cool, collected, a great listener, attentive, wants to hear your thoughts.
Yeah,
I'm a fan, and that's why I go out of my way to
but
help
not
him out.
afraid to take a stand. At
No,
some point, well, by being a leader means that at some point, you've got to take a stand. You have to take a
yep,
side. And
yep.
in so doing, sometimes you really have to tick people off. But that's what a leader does. You can't always listen. You can't take both sides. Sooner or later, a decision's got to be made, and I think Mark is able to do that.
Yep, and
Go ahead, John.
he's got a great family around him too. His wife seems really engaged and excited about everything he does, and 3 really fun children to be around. He just posted on Twitter, by the way. I'm excited and grateful today as I officially register as a candidate to be the next mayor of Ottawa, the best city in Canada, and a place I am proud to call my hometown. So there you go.
Good.
Let's go to text 613-413-2217. Sometimes we have soccer, hockey, and football games on the same day with tens of thousands of people downtown when the Sens move into the core, plus a bunch of new towers and densification along Bank and Lansdowne 2.0 with the Red Blacks. What is the plan and timeline for Bank Street O-Train? Without Bank Street O-Train, the core will be gridlocked. Sometimes I don't understand this city. Not a topic we're talking about today.
You're not the only one who doesn't understand the city. Go ahead.
Sounds like a good idea. Let's do that today, maybe, possibly. Over to YouTube. If Bill Blair interfered in an investigation, isn't that something that the RCMP can lay a charge on? Asks Boo Boo.
Well, yeah, this raises a very interesting question. I mean, who charges him? Go ahead.
You see, that's why I was kind of giggling when I read that. Like, okay. Always like Mark, says Eileen. He has my vote. Love that Mark is running, and Blair should definitely resign. Bet Lucky will take the fall, says
just getting back. I mean, we deserve better in this country. I mean, it would appear that nobody in command, or very few in command in the military, can keep their freaking pants on. Every time I turn around, there's another charge, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how many leaders we've gone through there. We can't. We can't seem to order the right airplane. We've got police who can't seem to do their job. We've got a leader that a government leader that's it's just fumbling the whole thing. We got our airports are jammed. There's still chaos in our airports.
Oh, that's a mess.
We can't get passports anymore. And by the way, concerning passports, there was a letter yesterday in the Citizen from a former assistant or deputy minister, I think, of whatever the passport division is. And he said, look, the problem can easily be solved. He said, and this makes so much sense, John. He says, what you should do is just stamp all of the present passports good till the end of the year.
Brilliant.
Just stamp them all, and then you can deal with them in a gradual. Just get a stamp saying extended till the end of the year, till the end of 2022 or whatever it is. That's all. Just stamp them all, get them in, get them out, get them in, and get in the back in a day or two. The backlog is over. That's how simple it would be. He said.
Whose idea was that, Lowell?
It was a former deputy minister. Excuse me.
Some common sense.
Some common sense.
Jeez.
And we got Trudeau has just appointed 11 cabinet ministers to sit down and decide what to do about this chaos. This guy writes a letter to the Citizen, says, create a stamp and stamp good till the end of 2022, and your problem is solved. Go ahead.
Kind of like we did in the middle of the pandemic with not having to renew our license stickers. You know what? We'll just extend that for a little while. We're fine. Right. We'll move on to more important things. Robert says, raw sewage in the rivers, and I'm paying a carbon tax. Kellyanne, of course we deserve better, but until we get rid of the corruption, it's dealt with. Things will not change. No one in power has any ethics. All right, just a couple of quick comments before we get to the bottom of the hour here, Lowell. Glenn Harris says, willing to bet Singh only supports Trudeau because NDP don't have enough money to run another election campaign. Mike says, yes, Bill Blair should resign, and Mark gets my vote. Joshua says, the Liberals will refer this to the Bill Blair Witch Hunt Project. Blair. I got it. Peter says, Butts is trying to spin it for Trudeau and Blair already. Kathy on Facebook, not just Bill Blair, but all the Liberal Party needs to go. Jagmeet needs to stand up against the Liberals so we can have an election to vote Trudeau out.
Not going to happen, folks.
Yeah. We just had one of those a few months ago, kids.
I just don't see how Bill Blair can survive this. And to be honest with you, I don't see how Brenda Lucki can survive this either. But we've seen worse scandals before, and people still adore them. Adoration. Back tomorrow. Thank you.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.